So now they're treated to gales of laughter all around the world as people read this very detailed, point-by-point, scientific refutation that I have given of this so-called joke professors, this cardboard professors, this prawn-like professors' ridiculous attempt at a scientific attack on me. The guy isn't even a climate scientist. He's a professor of heat transfer or some such thing.
Well, he's not being invited, which they never do. I mean, he's not being invited like you to the World Federation of Scientists. Now expanding on this, though, what are their counterstrikes? Because they're still going forward with their climate cult. They're still brainwashing the children in public and private schools worldwide. They're still going ahead. The EPA says they're implementing the carbon taxes by hook or by crook. How are they counterstriking? And B, how do we defeat them?
Right. I think what is happening is that the Republican Party, which as recently as 2 years ago was saying to me, well, of course, we can't argue with them on the science, but on the economics, what they say makes no sense. They have now realized that the science is wrong. I have testified several times in front of Congress. Many other researchers and scientists who are skeptical of the extremists' claims have also testified there, and it has become quite apparent that the Democrats simply want to believe in this global warming stuff, not because it's true, but because it's politically expedient and financially profitable. That's what it's all about. They don't care what the scientific truth is, but the Republicans now do. They are now looking very, very hard at the science. And here, if the IPCC and railroad engineer Pachauri, its chairman, is listening, is what's going to happen next. At the midterm elections in November, and it's not for me to tell you which way to vote, but you know what I'm thinking, it is very likely that the Republicans are going to recapture the House, and they will come closer to recapturing the Senate, though my guess is they won't quite make that. Now, when they do recapture the House, there will no longer be any serious opposition to the idea that cap-and-trade is dead. And the Senate won't pass a cap-and-trade bill, the House won't pass one. That is not going to happen. What will happen instead is that the Murkowski resolution in the Senate that would have extinguished the EPA's right to trample around issuing huge taxes in the name of saving the planet, that will be brought forward again. This time it will carry, and then, of course, it can still be vetoed by the president, but then let him veto it, and let him veto it over and over and over again. That's what they're going to do, because every time he personally vetoes it, then he is making the EPA's actions his own, and the electorate will not thank him for it. Those candidates who have spoken out so far in the election, in the primaries, against this global warming nonsense have done far better than the true believers who pretend to go on believing it. So gradually the politicians are saying, we're not playing. Now, if America doesn't play, if America doesn't go for cap and tax, and it's now looking clearer that it won't, subject only to the Democrats trying to do something cheesy during the lame duck session, the kind of thing that Senator Kerry has already been saying they're going to try to do. Well, they may try to do that, but if they do, once again, the electorate will take note. And Obama will find that when he faces election again in another 2 years' time, he will be out on his ear big time if the U.S. Democrats try to play that kind of game during the lame duck session, force legislation through on the votes of senators and congressmen who have already lost their seats and therefore have nothing to lose by creating maximal damage to the nation they had sworn an oath to serve. That's what they'll try to do. But they will be forestalled. If they're not forestalled, that's the end of Obama's chance of re-election. If they are forestalled, that's the end of the process of trying to get a world government in place.
But it's up to individuals at their counties, cities, and states to rout these people out, because even though it's been exposed internationally, nationally by yourself and others, and even though more and more of their program is in trouble, they are accelerating it in a sneaky way at the local level with their brainwashing, their local carbon taxes, environmental taxes, and that's up to all of us individually to go to the school boards, to go to the city council meetings, and to present all of the admissions now that this is a fraud, and all of the admissions that it'll cause massive third world starvation and death, and explained that this is really a eugenics move for world population reduction. And Lord Monckton, I want to get to that, but first I wanted to play a video clip from a few years ago put out by Greenpeace, financed by these big foundations, because now they're issuing more videos like this. And Bill Gates, who's funding global warming propaganda, is saying, yes, we're going to have death panels, get rid of grandma so that we can hire 10 teachers. So we're more and more seeing that the eugenics crowd, the euthanasia crowd, the environmental crowd, this is all one big group. And I wanted to get your statement on the fact that the New York Times is now coming out telling children in New York Times published workbooks, tattle on your parents, report on them, tell them they shouldn't take a hot bath or shouldn't run the water when they brush their teeth, mirroring what Prince Charles has been saying about don't take a bath, you know, take a shower. I mean, it's so insane. So I wanted to play this chilling clip of this youth sternly telling his parents and adults that we're coming after you. And again, this mirrors all the new press reports of the world's too stupid to accept carbon taxes. We've got to become authoritarian and force this through for the good of the earth. They're now becoming nakedly authoritarian. They're not just calling for your arrest. They're basically insinuating or getting at. I'm inventing words here. They're basically saying we may get violent with you now. Here's that clip.
The scientific community released a report that proves beyond a doubt that the Earth is getting warmer. This global warming is caused by things you grown-ups do, and by the things you don't. If drastic measures aren't taken soon, by the time I grow up, there won't be any fish left in the sea. Rainforests and clean air will be a thing of the past. The polar ice caps will be gone. Oceans will rise. Entire countries will disappear. Life will change in ways you can't even imagine. There could be famine, worldwide epidemics. Life expectancy will be lower. And we're not just talking about the future. We're talking about my future. But this is no surprise. You adults have known about this for years. And though you could have done something about it, you haven't. You can say, it's not my problem. You can say, I won't be around in 50 years. But from now on, you can't say I didn't know. Starting today, the lines are drawn. You have to choose sides. Either you're for my future, or you're against it. You're a friend, or you're an enemy. I may just be a kid today, but tomorrow will be different. This is the last time I'll be talking to you adults. You've had your chance to fix this problem. Now we have ours. We won't be cute, we won't be patronized, and we will not be denied our future.
Join the energy revolution, Greenpeace. So this is literally the equivalent of Maoist youth brigades jogging down the street with their red flags.
And if you see the face of this child, which is a malevolent, bitter, unwashed face,
yes,
you can see what thoroughly nasty, indeed Nazi, propaganda this is. The Greenpeace now is no better than the Nazi movement, and they're behaving in exactly the same way, using very, very similar propaganda techniques. It's an extremely worrying trend. In Europe, you may be interested to know they're planning to set up an environmental criminal court. And the aim of that environmental criminal court will be that anyone who dares to say, like you or me, that global warming has been oversold and is going to happen, but not as much as the official documents say, can be arrested using the European arrest warrant, which has already seen 3,000 British citizens taken without evidence from their beds at 3 in the morning and deported to various European countries by the European dictatorship. You know, we are already a police state. It's already happening to us. And this environmental criminal court is about to be set up, and that too will have the powers to issue arrest warrants against British citizens without evidence under the European arrest warrant procedure. That's what is happening here, and the UN is working on similar structures internationally, so that anyone who in future goes on convincing people scientifically that this is nonsense, using scientific arguments and facts and data, and, as you've rightly said, being proven right time and again when the true believers in the new religion of global warming are proven wrong, people like us can, and not very long from now, unless we really fight this, will be arrested, locked up, and if James Hansen gets his way, killed for what he calls high crimes against humanity, for which the penalty is death. He has been calling, in effect, for the death penalty for those who dare to disagree with him on global warming. That is how serious this is. We are dealing with people who, in their increasing desperation, can no longer rely upon argument because their case has never been based on it. Instead, they can only rely on force, and it's force that they're now using increasingly to try to kick people into line. That's what the EPA is doing. That's what Obama wants to do. So far, the only real obstacle worldwide to this new dictatorship, and it is a Nazi dictatorship, it's just as nasty as that, it's the same techniques, it's the same arbitrary arrest.
Well, Hitler was an environmentalist.
He was indeed, but he was therefore perfectly willing. He was perfectly willing to issue such arrest warrants, and I'm quite sure that once this European Environmental Criminal Court gets going, and I know there have been talks at the highly secretive European Commissariat, the commissars who decide our future now and make all our laws. Our Parliament is just a rubber stamp. It has no independent powers. These things are all decided by unelected commissars in Europe. They all wish to extend their powers and influence over us.
Lord Monckton, stay there. Final segment with you straight ahead. More key information.